When we think about the romance genre in contemporary Hindi cinema, the first name that flashes in our head is none other than that of Imtiaz Ali. If there is anyone in the present lot of mainstream Hindi movie directors who has played with the idea of Sufism, it has to be Imtiaz Ali, who has time and again portrayed the idea of mysticism, self-exploration and spirituality. This can be traced throughout his cinema, which is vastly based in this spectrum. He has certainly carved a niche in this realm. Imtiaz came into the industry without any film schooling, and so his hands-on experience always brings a freshness in his storytelling. However, his work has always been found to be oscillating between being monotonous for some to being life-altering for others. In the past 2 decades, he has directed and written a plethora of love stories that have been, in a way, chicken soup for the souls of many Romeo and Juliets. So now, let's jump right in to rank his movies in order of what was half-baked, what could be skipped, and to the ones that are worth your time. Number 8. Love Aajkal 2.0. This is by far the least interesting movie to come out of Imtiaz's mind. Not only was this a lazy attempt to serve old wine in a new bottle, but was also something nobody asked for. This is a millennial version of Love Aajkal, which runs a cliché narrative for 160 minutes about how Zoe, a career-oriented girl played by Sara Ali Khan, is trying to understand why the hell is Veer, a Delhi Londa played by Kartik Aryan, is irritating the hell out of her by stalking her after a casual hookup. For this, she finds a Sarthi-like figure in Randeep Hooda, who introduces her to the 90s style orthodox love affairs. क्योंकि DDLJ तो देख ही नहीं थे ना बेचारी जोई ने. छोड़ो. This theme about modern love, which Imtiaz had in his head, was somehow lost midway and probably got entangled in his long curls before it could reach the audiences. It had poorly written screenplay and shallow characters, which made this a soulless experience. The only saving grace of this film was the underutilized Randeep Hooda and a couple of soothing original tunes such as Meherma and Shayad. After watching this, the only dialogue that his fans repeated to Imtiaz was, because not long before the release of Love Aajkal 2.0, there were talks about Imtiaz's collab with SRK. This had his fans excited. The king of romance meets the new age love guru. But the product of all this much-awaited buzz was another lackluster affair called Jab Harry Met Sejal. This was a story about a Punjabi Munda Harry, played by Shah Rukh Khan, whose job as a local guide in Europe makes him meet Sejal, played by Anushka Sharma, a tourist who loses her wedding ring during the trip. This 144-minute drama revolves around how both of them fall in love with each other while finding this ring. Nothing fascinating, isn't it? Well, you're right. It hasn't really been the best time for SRK in the past few years. His numerous attempts to connect back with his audience have been a series of failed attempts. Jab Harry Met Sejal was one of those attempts. Even though it sells itself as a pot-boiling entertainer, it lacked the magic which SRK is known for. And it also lacked the magic that Imtiaz is known for. What we were served was a regular Bollywood flick, shot in picturesque European cities, far away from both homeland and realism. The characters were mere caricatures who ended up in over-the-top situations which most of us couldn't really relate to. And honestly, Anushka's forced Gujarati accent was totally off-putting. What Imtiaz originally thought of way back in 2014 was remixed with sellable elements and was even marketed with a series of mini-trailers, which was kind of a hint कि दाल में कुछ तो काला है. Nevertheless, this movie still managed to pocket over 150 crores, but the credit for that solely goes to the hardcore SRK fanbase. Number 6. Love Aajkal. The plot twist around Jay, played by Saif Ali Khan, and Meera, played by Deepika Padukone, who casually and happily break up, only to ultimately realize that they just can't live without each other. Sounds familiar? But in this, Imtiaz layers the story with Rishi Kapoor's character helping Saif find answers to what love is through his experience. The original Love Aajkal, as many would agree, was far better than its 220 version. Though it is no Schindler's List in comparison to New One, in hindsight it wasn't a perfect movie either. It did have its flaws, some regular Bollywood elements like pretentious situations, cheesy dialogues, and a happy fairy tale ending. But if you look past all that, it was an enjoyable film. By drawing parallels on how love is perceived today as compared to the previous generation, which has been the recurring theme of the so-called franchise, was something fresh in 2009. The characters might seem a bit filmy, but the actors put forth a fine job to pull that off. Saif Ali Khan has played this urban, happy-go-lucky kind of guy in many of his earlier movies like Hum Tum and Salam Namaste. But somehow he manages to impress with his comic timing and screen presence each time. Imtiaz leaves you with a few key moments like a breakup party, Saif's Pratigya, and loitering around Delhi on top of a taxi. ये ख्याल हमें क्यों नहीं आता? Oh yes, Delhi Police. Alright, the next one up is number 5, Socha Na Tha. This was Imtiaz Ali's first movie and a lesser known one of the rest of his works. It was surely a great teaser to his upcoming filmography. Imtiaz Ali took almost 3 years in making this film. This movie was quite gripping and nail-biting, which glues you to your couch to find out how all of it concludes. Viren, played by Abedul, son of a business tycoon, meets Aditi, played by Ashia Takya, a prospective bride in an arranged marriage setup. They casually refuse to marry each other because of their prior commitments and instead become friends. This rejection leads to an enmity between their families. Reason being कि आपके लड़के ने मेरी लड़की का हाथ कैसे पकड़ा? I mean seriously, you guys aren't business empires. Okay. Imtiaz keeps you immersed in the complications faced by the two protagonists, be it juggling between the uncertainties, confusion, and an ongoing family feud. Although the ending is quite predictable, but you've enjoyed the roller coaster of mess up so much that it barely matters. Imtiaz struggled to sell this off to a popular production brand, which would have otherwise changed the dynamics of how this movie was received. This is why Socha Na Tha wasn't very popular back then. However, it was Imtiaz's second film that made him stand out, the 2007 movie called Jab We Met. This movie not only shot Imtiaz Ali to fame but also was a turning point in both Kareena and Shahid Kapoor's career. His understated character was well received by the moviegoers. The quiet, underconfident and suicidal guy fighting with his inner turmoil meets the polar opposite, a talkative and over-optimistic girl, Keith, marvelously played by Kareena Kapoor. And how this meeting takes them on the life-altering journey is essentially the plot of this commercially and critically acclaimed movie. This was one of the best mainstream movies to come out that year, and some of its dialogues like "मुझे शादी करने का बड़ा craze है by God" and the whole sequence in Decent Hotel have become somewhat of a classic now. The music by Pritam was an instant hit, be it the whimsical Tumse Hi or the upbeat Nagada Nagada. Pritam hit the right note in this album. The music in Imtiaz Ali's movies always takes the story a notch up. Well, no surprises here, but the top 3 movies in this list are when he collaborated with A.R. Rahman. There's always something magical when they work together, and one such movie was Tamasha, which we rank at number 3. This movie has inspired a lot of young people who cared to give it a thought. From its trailer, this one looked like another formulaic story and even hinted on being Fir Se Wahi Kahani. The movie starts off as what might seem like a regular boy meets girl in a foreign land type scenario. They are dancing, doing some matar gasti and role playing as Dawn and Mona Darling. But it is really the second half of the movie where the dynamics change and we understand the escapism of the protagonist. This movie delves deeper into the mind of Ved, played by Ranbir Kapoor, an aspiring storyteller stuck in the never-ending rat race of corporate life. In a way, most of us are like Ved, Lakir ke Fakir, which is why his frustration resonated with many. Tara, played by Deepika Padukone, who matches his wit, wisdom and energy, misses the real Ved and pushes him to go on a self-exploratory mode. Tu Koi Aur Hai by A.R. Rahman is a fitting song to complement this motivation. The film is quite nuanced and is able to stay true to its theme. It takes a while for an audience to absorb the struggle of Ved and identify that we deal with the same insecurities on a daily basis. Here, Imtiaz inspires us to follow our passion, take off our masks, face our true selves, and also to go have a beer at Hoskas Social. So the rank 2 goes to Rockstar. This was a coming-of-age story of an aspiring rock star played by Ranbir Kapoor, who absolutely blew it out of the park with his performance. From being an underconfident guitar-playing sweet college boy Janardhan to an intense and aggressive rock star Jordan, this is one transformative journey worth watching. In this movie, Imtiaz Ali explored the effects that love and loss can have on an artist. As Janardhan is told, a true artist is born only after going through insurmountable pain and tragedy. That's when he goes on to find the beautiful college girl Heer, the heartbreaking machine played by Nargis Fakhri. The movie's screenplay was mostly linear with glimpses of Jordan's discourse to self-destruction depicted through some well-constructed montages. This was an effective way of showing his journey, and the audiences are never spoon-fed with unnecessary details. Cinematographer Anil Mehta, who has worked on movies such as Lagan, does a commendable job in shooting the landscapes of Kashmir, Delhi and Prague. However, watching Nargis Fakhri struggling with her lip sync on dubbed dialogues was a bit jarring. Felt like a miscast in an otherwise well-made movie, making us wonder, heck, why didn't Aditi Rao Hadri, who was in a cameo, played the female lead instead? She would have been a much better choice. This was also the first time Imtiaz Ali worked with A.R. Rahman, undoubtedly the best choice for a movie based heavily on music. This movie's soundtrack gave us gems like Kun Faya Kun and Nadan Parinde. The jodi of Irshad Kamil and A.R. Rahman completely mesmerizes the audience to be lost in the world that Imtiaz creates. And the top rank goes to Highway. Highway is by far the most thought-provoking movie made by Imtiaz Ali. It is like poetry in motion. Unlike any of the movies he has ever directed, this one does not follow any formulaic structuring and an unusual casting. The story is about Veera, a bride-to-be from an influential family, abducted by a foul-mouthed truck driver, Mahabir, played by Randeep Hooda. The movie is very much abstract. It is definitely not an easy watch, but we give it the top rank because of the complex themes that it deals with. There's Veera, born in an affluent South Delhi family possessing all rich stuff, including a Rolls Royce. But she finds her freedom in being kidnapped, taken around in a rickety truck. There have been movies about Stockholm Syndrome earlier, but none of them were made in Hindi film industry. There's Mahabir, whose only sense of love is buried in the childhood memories of his mother. He finds that same affection in Veera's company as she cooks for him, or when she hums the same lullaby his mother used to. It makes you melt to see the organic connect the two develop as they go on this road trip. To add to this effect is the beautiful terrain of Lahaul and Spiti Valley. The purity of their relation draws its inspiration from the Himalayas itself. The cinematography plays an important role as they leave the claustrophobic milieu of Delhi to urban and the deserted salt lands of Rajasthan to finally find peace in the mountains. Once again, A.R. Rahman uplifts each frame with his inventive music, the peppy Pataka Guddi, the soul-stirring Kahan Hoon Main, and the lullaby Soha Saha adds up to the emotions. So that finishes the list, guys. Please let us know how you find our ranking and comment on what is your preferred ranking for Imtiaz Ali movies. Like, comment and subscribe, push the notification button to get updates, and stay safe, take care.